Greetings and welcome again to the 0 Hour Squared Classics, instant or current classics as we like to call these particular ones. And joining me right now is the bass player and vocalist of Necrot, Luca Indrio. I wanted to make sure I got that right. Luca Indrio. Luca, welcome to the 0 Hour Squared Classics, current classics. Really appreciate it. You have a brand new album entitled Mortal on Tank Crimes, and man, we've got a lot to talk about in regards to that. But first and foremost, how are you and everybody doing right now, current this predicament we're having with the pandemic?
Well, thanks for having me first of everything, and well, we're doing good. I mean, we're doing as good as we can. You know, we got almost everything. Everything that we had planned got canceled. So we lost like 3 months worth of show. Literally, like we lost about 90 shows just between May and September. So it's like, you know, that's a real bummer. But at the same time, it's like we have been digesting that for a few months. So it's not the news anymore, you know. So we were upset about it, but now there is no point in being upset anymore, because what you're gonna be upset about? You know what I mean? Everybody's upset about it. Everybody's upset about like whatever's going on in their life that is not going on anymore. So it's like we're just some of many. You know what I mean? It's like no reason to complain where everything is going to shit for everybody.
Right. Yeah, it's not like it was just specifically Necrot got caught up in all of this. It was entire world.
It's everybody. What can we do?
Everybody and anything. But one of the beautiful things about artists and musicians, you know, theater, all of that, is that always continues to go on no matter what's happening, whether it's a world war, whether it's any kind of economic catastrophe, or
what do you mean?
A pandemic, right?
Yeah, but it's not really going on. It's not true that it doesn't stop regardless, because it did stop.
Right. But you still continue to make music. And that's what we want to talk about right now, is the brand new album. And you're coming off some tremendous success off of the last album that you put out, Blood Offerings, man. And that was a tremendous, tremendous piece of work. But now you have this album, Mortal. Talk to us about the creation going into this, and in particularly putting it out right through this pandemic right now. Whereas you're not.
Well, what happened? Yeah. Well, what happened is that like we had less time to write this album that we had time to write Blood Offerings, because like the band got way more busy in the last 3 years. We have been touring constantly, so we pretty much wrote the whole album in a break in between a couple of tours, and then we recorded it when we got back from tour. And like our schedule was super tight. Tour, little breaks. We had a few 3 months and a half break in between 2 tours, and we wrote the whole album in that break, practicing like every day, writing, meeting up with Chad and practicing the songs. And then we left for tour again, and we were literally gone for like 3 months. Like we had little breaks in between, but not even enough time to come back. We got back for like 3 days and left again. So like we had a big break from writing the album, and then actually we had 3 months of tour, and then we got back and we had like about a couple of months, not even, to like practice it again and go, and then we went and recorded. So everything was really tight in the timing of it, but at the same time we were really prepared, because we were coming from 3 years of touring, more than 100 shows every year, and like so we got to record and write Mortal being very much ready, you know, being very much prepared to do so, because we had the experience and like the the stamina, and like we were really tied together from playing so many shows through those 3 years, you know. So we got to write Mortal, and we had more pressure, you know, because like Blood Offerings did really good, but at the same time we were confident of being such a better band, you know, thanks to all the work we've put in the last few years. So it's like for us, we always knew this album was gonna be better, you know. We always knew this album was gonna. We never really had a doubt that this album was gonna top somehow Blood Offerings, at least for us, you know what I mean. Then people's gonna have their own opinion, of course, but like, you know, for us there has never been a doubt that this album is way better than Blood Offerings.
Right. Okay, let's get right into that then, because I had PM Sonny about a week ago listening to the promo advance and what Liz, your publicist, has sent me, and I was just freaking blown away, man. To me, it reminds me, and I'm not going to blow no smoke, but it reminds me of Rain and Blood. Rain and Blood, wow. And not the songs or anything like that, but it was a polished, really good production. Clean, sharp, but it kept its balls. And Mortal has kept the balls going from what Blood Offerings gave us and what Necrot is all about. What are your thoughts about this new album in terms of that?
I do think that the production is, I think that we played better on the album, because it's like, ultimately it's like, you know, an album is going to sound better when the band performs better. But also it's like we went with a production that is like, you know, we still went with Greg Wilkinson at Hirammer Studios for the tracking and mixing of the album. Mm-hmm. But we did change the person who mastered the album. We went with Alan Duché, which is, he worked with Greg before, with our sound engineer. He worked with him before, and he worked on the latest Eye on Fire that he actually won a Grammy. And like Greg and him has worked together on other albums. And was Greg's suggestion was like, because every time we get into the studio, we always talk about that. We're like, who are we going to master it with? You know, and usually the conversation that we have about that, like we listen a lot to what Greg says, because it's like, you know, we know that like we are musicians, but like, you know, he knows more about recording than we do. Like, you know what I mean? And he knows us very well. So like if he suggested someone that he thinks is really good, because it's like, ultimately it's like if you're someone who records and mixes an album, you want to work with someone who mastered the album, that is going to be like, you know, someone you're comfortable with, someone you know is not going to fuck up everything you've done before, you know, that you give him a mix and it gives you back something completely different, you know. Right. So it's like for us it's very important to trust Greg when it comes down to like, who are we gonna master it with, you know what I mean? And Greg suggested Alan Duché, and like we listened to some of his stuff, and I watched some of his tutorial videos. He's got tutorial videos where he shows his equipment, and like, you know, and he's like an older man that has been mastering in the same room for like decades, and he has done tons of albums, because it's very important in mastering that you work in a place that you're super familiar with, you know what I mean? And this is a person who has been working in the same space for decades. So it's like we knew we were going with a really good team, and it's like ultimately the record sounds really good. I think it sounds really good, and it's like I think it sounds like you said, it sounds a little clearer maybe than the other one, but that's also I think done because the performance is better. But overall, it's like, you know, better performance, slightly clearer sound, but like still super heavy. I think the sound is wider. If you know what wide, like, you know, sometimes albums are very compressed. It feels everything is right there in the middle. This is an album that sounds like wide, you know, it sounds big without being super overblown, you know what I mean? Without being like super digital or super modern sounding. It's not an album that sounds super modern, but it sounds modern as far as being big. So that's kind of like what we wanted, you know, that's kind of like what we were going for.
Maximizing a 3-member band the way you're talking about right now with both Greg and with Alan, I think, and the fact that you guys were willing to kind of give up to the learning process for yourselves, I think really makes Mortal that much more of a step above. And I think the listeners can definitely see that, those who may be familiar with the band and maybe who have not been. Maybe this is the first time that they're going to hear Necrot, but man, they're going to be completely just shattered when they hear it, because it's an amazing accomplishment from start to finish. Really, really well done.
Thank you.
As far as the Blood, you know, coming from the success of Blood Offerings, you mentioned a little bit that there was maybe some pressure. Was there any carryover of songs from that last album?
The thing is, no, there wasn't. None of the songs on Mortal were written before. They were all written for the new album. But like Blood Offerings is like, you know, the success of Blood Offering is not only because we did a good album. It's also because we did a good album and we toured so much with it for 3 years straight, non-stop. You know what I mean? Because eventually people puts out a good album, and it's like, it's really hard that even if it's a really great album, it's really hard that after 2 years, people are still talking about it. You know what I mean? And the reason why people were still talking about it is because we kept going on tour with this album and playing all over the place, and get more and more new people that didn't know who we were to get to know us. So right. Even 2 years after Blood Offerings came out, there was still people last year in 2019 that were coming to our show for the first time, listening to us for the first time, and being as excited as people that heard it right when it came out. You know, so it's like we were able, like, we put a lot of work behind. We always put a lot of work behind our records, like, you know, as far as writing and producing it, but also as far as like promoting it and going on tour and playing the songs live. You know, directly to the fans instead of just putting out a great album and sit back and look on the internet what happens. Like, you know, that's not how it works.
Right. No, you guys are hard workers, man. I mean, you guys straight studio, straight to touring again, straight to writing. I mean,
but I think that's also why we got so much better, you know, in the last 3 years, is because of all the work that we put into it. And like, you know, and we also spent time, you know, on the road with, like, you know, Morbid Angel, Cannibal Corpse, Immolation, Suffocation, a lot of really great bands, you know what I mean? And we've been in close contacts with these people and like watching them play every night and becoming friends with them and talking about stuff. And it's like, it really validates what you're doing. It makes you feel more confident on what you're doing, but also gives you like an example of how things how good you want your band to be. You know what I mean? When you play every night right before Morbid Angel, you know, you're like, I need to be good. You know, it's easy to play your hometown. It's easy to play with bands of friends of yours. It's easy to play when on underground shows where everybody already knows who you are and they like you, whatever, you know. One thing is playing every night before Morbid Angel in front of 1,000 people or 600 or even more sometimes. So it's like, you know, that kind of pressure and being validated by people that have been doing it for so long, because we became really good friends with Steve Tucker, with the guys from Immolation. And it's like, the friendship was mutual, because it's like, you know, we were seeing in them what we want to be, and they were seeing in us what they used to be. You know what I mean? So it's like there was a real connection right there, you know. And it's like we immediately became really good friends with almost all of them, and like, you know, sharing the stage every night and like talking and seeing them play every night and like putting so much work into what you're doing. And it's like it makes you such a better musician, you know. It makes you more confident. So then you have the pressure of doing something good, but at the same time you have the confidence that you know you're gonna do it, that you're gonna do it good.
As far as a contemporary, newer artist, and I know you guys are seasoned vets and have played in several other bands, but you mentioned, you know, Immolation, you mentioned Suffocation, Morbid Angel, bands like that. You are at that level already, and I think that that's a tremendous honor, or I should say a testament to your guys' hard work and to the fact that you've ingested all of that music over the course of your time and really have created and become into your own with Necrot, which is absolutely fantastic. The touring aspect that we miss, and this album being put out as far as Mortal, how frustrating is it that you're not going to be able to go hit the road? What's going to be the next phase? Are you going to be doing a lot of streaming shows, as a lot of artists have been doing as of late?
No, what I was saying is like we were really bummed. Like, you know, it's really a bummer. Like, you know, you want to play the new songs live. It's like, you know, you can't wait to have a new album and start touring again. And then it's like, that got taken away from us right now. But it's like, at the same time, we have no idea when we'll be able to go on tour again, you know, or at least like, we don't even know when or if we'll be able to tour like we used to, that we used to play like, you know, 45 shows in a row. Because it's like, what if things start again, like concerts and whatnot? But like, what I always tell people is like, to be able to be a band that lives off of his music and goes on tour a lot, you need to be able to bring people to your concert, not only on Fridays and Saturday. You need to be able to bring people on concerts on a Monday, on a Tuesday, on a Wednesday, when you're in Oklahoma City, not in New York. You know what I mean?
Right.
When you're in other places. So it's like, you know, to be able to be a band that goes on tour for a month or a month and a half, you need to be able to bring people to your shows every night of the week. So it's like, now with the pandemic, lots of venues are going to close down. Lots of places is going to be hard to play there, because they're already hard places to play. You know what I mean? Not every night is Chicago, where there is a big death metal scene. You know what I mean?
Right.
So it's like, right now, if I sit down and think about, like, you know, what we used to do and when are we going to be able to do that again, that's just going to be frustrating. You know what I mean? Because there is no answers. There is no answers for anybody right now. You know, eventually in 6 months from now, this is all going to be like a bad dream, you know, and everything went back to normal and we're back on the road. But like, eventually 2 years from now, we're still here wondering when the fuck things are going to go back to normal. So it's like, for me, it's like, I cannot be just sitting down crying about it. You know what I mean? I'm living my life, and I'm doing other things. I'm still writing music. I'm talking with my family, with my friends, and like, you know what I mean? I'm keeping myself busy in other ways, because I cannot just, this is like a terrible way of living your life. It's like every time you lose something, sit down and think about your old job, your old girlfriend, your friend that died. It's like, you can't live like that. Life is always gonna fuck you over, always, like, you know, sooner or later. So it's like, the sooner you learn not to get too upset about shit that happens on this fucked up planet, you know, the better it is. And this is a great lesson. Coronavirus is a great lesson for everybody. It's like, you know, you can be a loser and be there crying like a baby because you lost something, but we all lost something. Now it's time to show, like, you know, who you really are, because it's easy to be a good person when everything, or, you know, positive, or like, you know, when everything's going great. But like, I want to see what people do when things goes to shit. That's what really shows who you are, no?
Right. And those are some good words to live by. Definitely very, very, a lot of wisdom there in what you just said. And I agree wholeheartedly with you, because you just can't stop. You know, that's why we can't do the interviews. We still keep writing the songs, all
totally.
of that.
And to me, it's like mortal. And this is also like a concept that has always been in my songs too, in the lyrics, of like mortality, of like accepting your mortality, not only in the moment you're gonna die, like, you know, it happens throughout your life. It happens all the time. You know what I mean? That you're gonna lose, you're gonna have to let go things. Sometimes you're gonna have to let go of yourself too, you know, something you used to do, now you don't want to do it anymore, you know. You gotta let that person die. So it's like, you know, mortality to me is like, is something that is something that is good to know and think about it. It's something that you need to be conscious about it. It's something that is comfortable to know, you know what I mean, more than something that you should be afraid of. You know, it's something that you need to get used to. You can't get mad about things going badly in your life, because it's always going to happen, you know, a way or another. You know what I mean? Yeah. And it's like, we have songs that talks about that, even on Blood Offerings, like Shadows and Light. You know what I mean? That is like, is about detachment from life, detachment from who you think you are, or the things that you're supposed to get in this life, or, you know, or thinking that everything that you have, you're gonna always have it. You know, you always have to remember you're gonna lose everything. Otherwise, this life is gonna be like a fucking disaster. You're always gonna be mad. You're always gonna be sad. Always.
Speaking of songs and their contents, your first single is going to be Stench of Decay. And I want to let you, in your own words, describe what that song is, because I think it's very prolific, especially considering the times that we're living through right now.
Well, it's crazy, because it's like, you know, lately I have had so much people noticing how political Necrot lyrics are. You know, because our lyrics have always talked about society. They've always talked about mortality and more philosophical stuff. But they've always talked about injustice. They've always talked about like the social situation that we live in, and like, you know, the problems of living as a consumer, as, you know, pretty much as a slave consumer on this planet, where, you know, they always keep you in a way that you always have to work all the time. Because, you know, they make you believe you can buy a house, but, you know, you're paying mortgage for all your life, and on top of that you're paying property taxes. Then they make you believe that you can own things, like, you know, they make you believe you can own more than what you actually can pay for. In that way, you always have to pay debts. In that way, they assure themselves that you're always going to work forever, as much as they need you to. So it's like, you know, this problem of a society that keeps people in like comfort, while at the same time keeps people enslaved in a work system where if you stop working for a month or two, you're fucked. And this is what coronavirus is showing people. You know what I mean? They think that they own all these things, but all these things you have to pay them every month with your hard work. And the moment that there is no work, you're losing everything. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's like, you know, it's a society that is like, it fakes people into believing that they're free, when it's like, it's a big lie, and people will defend that lie. You know what I mean? People will defend their right of being enslaved by this fucking society. So it's like, you know, we have been talking about this shit since forever, and if people have been looking at Necrot lyrics, even our first song ever was called Consume Control. That's our first song we ever fucking wrote. So it's like, you know, and right now lots of people, it's true, they're asking, they're like, oh, your lyrics are very, you know, they fit very well what's going on in the world right now. And I'm like, yeah, we've been talking about it for 10 years, you know, and a lot other bands before us, you know.
Right.
It's like, but it's kind of like, in a way, this whole negative moment that we're all living, to some people is opening their eyes a little bit, you know what I mean? And eventually look at what they thought it was their freedom, and look at what they thought it was their rights, you know, eventually they're not exactly there how they thought they were. And it's like, yeah, Stench of Decay for me is like a song that talks about, like, you know, how people's greed, and like people research for power, you know, for bettering their position, to be able to, like, you know, keep someone below them or make more money or whatever. It's like, ultimately, it's like it's what's running this world, especially in the Western world, is running towards, like, you know, this emptiness. And it's like, you know, all these social issues that is, like, you know, especially now in the pandemic, is really showing. But like Stench of Decay talks about that. It talks about, like, you know, leaving your house and entering a world, a society that you feel like you don't belong in there. Sometimes you feel like you don't even want to participate, you know, you don't want to take part in this. And it's like a lot of time, that's also what brings people close to extreme music, to metal, to punk, to grind, to all this music that is, like, you know, transcend, kind of breaks the rules of society. And, like, you know, you find comfort in the music world, in the music scene, way more than you find comfort in relationships, your work, your friends, even your family, you know, whatever. You find really an ally in this music that is extreme and is different. It's like, to me, it's like, you know, extreme music is already political without lyrics, you know, because it's not a music for people for the normal people to enjoy, for the masses to enjoy, you know what I mean? Right. It's something that comes from the outcasts, from people that they don't feel like they belong here, that they want to make noise instead of music because they're pissed, you know what I mean? So it's like, to me, it's like music is political, extreme music is political even without lyrics, you know? And to me, it's funny when people say, like, you know, don't bring politics into music, when it's like, music is already a political statement without even saying a word.
It could be
because right? Yeah, but also it's like, you know, if you create a melody that is very beautiful and can be enjoyed by everybody, it's like, you know what I mean? You're already doing something for the people that lives and accept this society. You're doing something for people that are, like, you know, that can appreciate something that makes them feel safe, no, that makes it an harmony, very harmonious, that makes them feel calm and good. Instead, the moment you're creating a music that is violent, that is heavy, that is distorted, it's like, you know, people that don't get it, they're gonna hear it like a noise, like something disturbing, you know what I mean? And it's like, for you, if you're making music like that, you're already doing like some kind of, like, you're already some kind of rebel, you know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah. Luca, this has been a very fascinating conversation. I wish we had a little bit more time. I know you have some other interviews to get to, but I want to definitely congratulate you on the brand new album, Mortal on Tank Crimes. I think it's a fantastic album, and certainly one
of the
year, man. It's great.
You told me you were at the show that we played with Blood Incantation and Superstition. Is that what you're talking about, right? Killer. Yeah, that show was fantastic. Superstition is such a great band, man. I really love that band.
Yeah, that was fantastic. That was a great show. Please definitely give Sonny all of New Mexico's best. We tell him we love
him. Oh, absolutely, man.
And we love you guys.
Absolutely.
And continued success, man. This album is top notch, man. And I think everybody's going to enjoy it. And the message and the philosophy behind it are much appreciated, that you put all your effort and all your heart, mind, body, and soul into the creation of what you do from top to bottom.
Thank you, man. If you allow me like a minute just to tell people, like, if they can, right now, please support the bands, not just us. Like, you know, if usually you just listen to music on Spotify or YouTube, this is a good time, if you like a band, to go buy their album, because it's like, you know, bands survive through live shows. This is the reality of 2020. It's like, you know, nobody sells a lot of records anymore. Everybody pays $10 to Spotify and they listen to whatever the fuck they want. So it's like nothing, just a shout out to anybody who can afford it. I know we're all struggling, but like, if you can, right now more than ever, it's important to support directly, you know, the bands that you love, to make sure that they'll be able to continue doing this when things go back to normal. And yeah, that's all I wanted to say. Like, yeah, if people can, please support the bands right now, because we all benefit from having a lot of bands. I want people to still wanting to start a band. That's what I'm worried about too. You know, it's like, because it's like lots of newer generations, they don't have that drive of being like, oh, I want to start a death metal band, because eventually they see that like concerts are not happening. There is not much interest, or people are not buying records. You know what I mean? It's like the direct support is important to keep this going, which we all benefit from, because I love myself too when a sick newer band puts out a demo or an album, like, oh, so check it out. You know, we are all fans. We're all fans before we're musicians, you know?
All right. Well, thank
you.
Cool,
Cool, brother. Thanks for your time. Appreciate
it.
Sure.
That message is much appreciated. And again, much continued success to Necrot. Y'all take care and be safe out there, man. We'll talk to you very, very soon.
Awesome. Hope to see you in New Mexico, brother.
Take care, man.